Welcome students. In this topic, we will learn about lap joint on 10 mm thick MS plates in vertical position using SMAW process.
At the end of this topic, you will be able to select appropriate electrodes for tack welding and welding process. Prepare and set plates in lap joint in vertical position. Tack weld. Weld lap joint in vertical position using SMAW. Inspect the weldments for defects. Now, let us look at the tools required for lap joint on a 10 mm thick MS plate in vertical positions using SMAW process. Steel rule, scriber, prick punch, ball peen hammer, flat file, bench vise, tri-square, tongs, chipping hammer, steel wire brush, electrode cable and earth cable, electrode holder, electrode, personal protective equipment, SMAW welding plant machine, C-clamp. Now let us see the pre-welding preparations for a lap joint on 10 mm thick MS plates in vertical position using SMAW process. Cut two 10 mm thick MS plates, 150 mm length by 50 mm width. File the edges and inspect the plates. Set the lap joint and tack weld them. The lapping distance should be 25 mm so that there is no gap between them after tacking. Keep the electrodes ready for each run. For root run, use 3.15 mm electrode and 120 amps current. For the second and third run, use 4 mm electrode and 160 amps current. We have seen the pre-welding preparations. Let us look at the welding process of a lap joint on 10 mm thick MS plates in vertical position using SMAW process. Fix the job on the welding positioner in vertical position. Welding a lap joint in a vertical position has always been a problem. One of the upper edges of the plate being burnt, that is, edge melted off. This can be overcome by using proper electrode manipulation. Method of depositing bead in vertical position on a lap joint. Use 3.15 mm electrode with 110 amps current. Use a short arc for depositing root run with whipping motion so as to prevent sagging of the weld metal. Deslag with a chipping hammer and clean the joint and bead thoroughly with a wire brush, particularly at the toes of the weld. Select a 4 mm dia, medium coated MS electrode and set 150 to 160 amps current. Deposit the second run with weaving motion and this will avoid sagging of the molten metal. The angle of the electrode should be between 75 degrees to 80 degrees. Keep the electrode motion confined to the weld width so that the edge of the upper plate is not melted off. The weaving motion and the movement of the arc in the upward direction should be at uniform speed. The rate of travel should be even for obtaining a uniform bead with a good appearance. Ensure the correct fillet size with proper bead profile is obtained. clean the joint using a wire brush and inspect for any external defect. Remove the job from the vertical position after filling the crater. Now, we will look at the important points, the defects to follow for a lap joint on 10 mm thick MS plates in vertical position using SMAW process. Wear protective clothing. Use tongs to hold the hot weld. Maintain short arc length. Avoid over deposition and side undercut by using a proper angle and travel speed of the electrode. Ensure the correct fillet size with proper bead profile is obtained and the edge of top plate is not melted off. Do not break the arc while moving in the upward direction. Ensure that there is no undercut at the toe of the weld on the bottom plate. Overlapping distance should not be more than 3 times the thickness of the base metal. Let us look at the defects which can be identified during the inspection process. Solid inclusion, over deposition, undercut, lack of penetration. Recap.
In this topic, you have learned to control the sagging of molten metal with an oscillating motion of the electrode. Deposit root run to ensure fusion and penetration in the lap section. Weld by depositing a second run on the lap joint without the edge of the plate melting off.